Registration is currently open. We want to make sure that everyone on this call is registered. The deadline for that for Midlands Gives is March 1st. So we are able to yield some questions about that later. But we really hope you are getting your registrations in. We don't want you to miss out. All right. So, uh, today's session, as y'all are been anticipating, capturing the power of storytelling, has been one of the favorites to look out for. And so today we have with us on the call Chantrell Mitchell, as all of you should be very familiar with. She is all things Midlands Gives and helps facilitate and run that platform and make sure that you have all answers to your questions. I am Amber Westbrook, Program Officer for Central Carolina Community Foundation, working in capacity building with our nonprofits. And then our lovely presenter today is Beth Ruffin. Some of you may already know her, but Beth Ruffin is the founder and CEO of the Everyday Inclusionist. She is a transformational leader in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging with other 25 years of experience creating workplaces where everyone can thrive. She has partnered with organizations across sectors to build inclusive cultures and develop high-performing teams through practical, actionable insights drawn from decades of real-world experience. We are so happy to have her with us today. So without further ado, please take it away, Beth.
Thank you, Amber, and hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm going to share my screen. And I know that there was a survey before, but if you have any thoughts or questions, please use the chat. We will, we'll be using that as a main point of interaction throughout our time together today. Okay, give me one moment. Now I'm trying to, okay, here we are. All right. So, Amber, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. When I created this slide, I actually looked different, but I do want to make sure that aside from my resume, give some other notes about myself. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I like to acknowledge that the territory on which I live was once occupied by the Catawba, the Congaree, and the Cherokee, and I am a plus-size middle-aged Black woman with short black hair today. That changes from day to day. So, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the why behind storytelling. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on that because I'm sure that you all understand that why. But then we're going to talk about how do you identify these stories within your org and how do you apply? Someone did ask in the survey, is there a format or a formula? And I will give you a storytelling framework that you can use, not just for Midland Gives, but for any stories that you want to put together. And then we'll just talk a little bit about how do you develop this consistent narrative across multiple platforms. So let's first talk about the power of stories. I want you to look at these. I'm going to share two messages about the same organization. As I share them, I want you to notice which resonates with you more. First message. Our food bank served 15,000 families last year, distributing 2.3 million pounds of food across 5 counties. We operate with 89% program efficiency. Or message two. Maria works two jobs, but still couldn't afford groceries after her son's medical bills came due. She came to our food bank for the first time, embarrassed and scared. Our volunteer, Miss Johnson, greeted her with warmth and helped her shop with dignity. Maria now volunteers every Saturday, helping families who remind her of herself 6 months ago. So tell me in the chat, which message resonated with you more? Message one or message two? And if you could tell me why. Message two, because it tells a story. Yeah, message two has the emotional impact. Message two, the numbers are great and could be a follow-up, but I can relate to Mary. Yeah, two is kind, it's personal, it's personalized. It makes the organization real. I love that. It shows the depth of the why, and it shows that change. It appeals the pathos, a relatable story. Yes, y'all are right on. So you're right. All of this, it is a real life story And that's what we want to be sharing when we're talking with donors and potential donors. Stories aren't just nice, they actually are neurologically powerful. They create empathy. When you hear a story, our brains release the empathy chemical, otherwise known as oxytocin. I mean, I don't know. If y'all know how to use the raise hand function, or you can use the chat, let me know, like, how many of you sometimes get stuck on where you're scrolling social media on those heartwarming stories that just make you cry, like the veterans coming back and surprising their loved ones, or someone ringing the bell when they're done with cancer treatment. Like, I get stuck on those for hours, right? Those types of stories are releasing a chemical in our brain. Stories are memorable. People remember stories 22 times more than facts. So, if I were to ask y'all right now, what were some of the numbers from the last slide? Can anybody tell me? I see a nope. Right. Yep. Two jobs, high impact. Yeah. But if I ask you about the woman, can anyone tell me something about her? Somebody already said she worked two jobs. Yep, her name. You even remember the name. Exactly. They're memorable. Her dignity was restored. She had a sick son. Yep. She now volunteers. She's an everyday person. She had a lot of medical bills. So, I mean, just in that alone, we're exemplifying this. And then finally, stories impact inspire action. Emotional connection drives 60 to 70% of giving decisions. So let's talk about why your story, your organization's story matters. Midlands Gives is a 24-hour giving event, and you are competing for both attention and dollars. During this time, donors are bombarded with asks. I know for myself, I usually, for the organizations that I am either on the board for or are truly close to my heart, I create champion pages, and I'm even trying to struggle with, when do I post? How do I, have the priority among the organizations, the three or four that I want to give. And so I think about a donor that is trying to decide between hundreds of organizations. How can they do that? Well, your story will help you stand out. It'll help you stand out in social media. It'll help you create that emotional urgency. It will give the donors a why that's bigger than just, hey, this is something I can use for tax time next year. And stories also help you build long term relationships, because we all know that this is not just about that one day, but it is about long term patterns of giving. So there are three pillars of effective storytelling. And the first is authenticity. So, as we talked about before, we talked about Mary. She was a real person. That was a real impact, and we didn't have to exaggerate anything. The next pillar is impact. You want to be able to create a clear connection between the story and the mission of the organization. And then the next pillar is consistency. So you want to make sure that the values that you are relaying are the same across all of your stories. And so, we've kind of already talked about this, but think about the last time you donated to a cause. And was it the story that caused you to do that? So I guarantee you that even if you don't know it, your organization is sitting on dozens of untold stories. They're happening every day, and you just need to know where to look and how to capture them. So let's first look at kind of where stories may live. Of course, the first one, which is what the example was earlier, is direct service moments. So those moments, those interactions between your team and those you serve. Now, this, of course, is for those who do direct services. Another place where stories live may be with volunteer experiences. Maybe there's a story about why a volunteer shows up, or something that they learned or changed as a result of volunteering with your organization. The same could be said for donors. Perhaps there is a reason of a story behind why they give or what keeps them giving. And don't forget your team, your internal staff. Why do they choose this work? What fuels them? Again, what have they learned by being a part of this organization? Are there any community impacts? Is there anything that has rippled beyond your direct services, perhaps in other parts of your serving area or into other organizations or other people? And then also be thinking about those behind the scene moments, that work that makes your mission possible. So, what I want us to do for a few moments is I want you to just start thinking about some potential stories from your organization. And what we're going to do is we're going to use those ideas you come up with through the rest of the presentation. So I'm going to give you all about 2 minutes, just piece of paper, just maybe write out some stories that you can think of. Not fully, but just, okay, this moment. So maybe a person whose life was changed, a volunteer, a moment where your team overcame a challenge, a surprising success, or a moment where you thought, this is why we do this. So I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes and then we'll come back and continue. I'd love if perhaps we have 2 or 3 participants that would be willing to unmute themselves and tell us about the stories that you selected.
Actually, I'm with Dogwood Acres Senior Dog Rescue. Um, so instead of a person whose life changed, how about a dog?
I love that. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. This is Polly Pocket,
Oh.
and let me set her back down. Polly lived her whole life in a puppy mill as a breeder. So she lived her life in a cage. And when she was too old to breed anymore, the breeder threw her away. And we picked her up, and she was pregnant as a senior.
Mm.
Um, she had to have most of her teeth removed because she didn't have, care. And she was severely underweight. Her fur was all matted up, and she was afraid of people because she lived in a cage her whole life. So now she's the most spoiled dog on the planet. She lives on my desk. Um, and she sleeps with me every night, and she goes with us to events because she's pocket sized and she's
Yeah.
easy to travel with. And everybody loves her. So
Oh, and she's so cute. Y'all, everyone, can y'all help me give hearts and applause? Thank you to Tammy. You're going to come teach this class with me next time because you've got that emotional story. You have talked really, I mean, when you see the framework, you're going to say, wow, this is really on point. You've talked about kind of the why, the transition period, and what her life is like now. So y'all help me thank Tammy for being a brave soul and going first to volunteer. That's amazing. Thank you.
This is Gail. I will do it.
Okay, thank you, Gail.
My story is actually about an intern that we have. We do home delivered meals, and we also the senior center for Sumter County. And the one intern that we had, she started off helping pack meals in the kitchen, and so she actually had the chance to interact with the seniors that attend this center. But it was one day she wanted to go out on a meal route with the drivers to deliver meals. So when she went out to deliver meals and came back in that afternoon, she started crying.
Mm,
And she started crying because she saw the difference between the seniors that attended the center and
mm,
the seniors that were being delivered meals to. She saw how some didn't have anyone to visit and they just constantly just wanted to have a conversation and talk. And then she saw the living conditions of some of the seniors. And so she made a conscious decision that she no longer wanted to stay inside and pack meals. She wanted to go out and deliver the meals so that she can interact with the seniors. So now she goes out with drivers helping to deliver meals to homebound seniors.
Wow, thank you for sharing, Gail. Another beautiful story. Y'all give it up for Gail. Let's put some hearts or some applause or in the chat. Um, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So I hope all of you have one story in mind that we're going to then kind of use throughout the rest of this, our time together. But just a thought here, how you can capture stories. It could be something like this where you're sitting down and you're brainstorming. It could be as something is happening that you're taking maybe a voice memo or a photo, or you're taking some notes. You could be setting up interviews with permission with either, this says clients, but it could be staff or volunteers. Maybe make this a part of your team meetings where you're debriefing. Are there any stories that happened today that we need to capture? Asking volunteers when you're surveying them. And then also just always being, observing and present and noticing those moments. So we talked about authenticity, and I just want to make sure that we are again being as authentic as possible, because we don't want to, not that any of you all would do this, but I don't want you to feel pressured that you have to try to, make something up or embellish or anything, right? So you always want to make sure that you're getting written consent. You want to protect privacy, using first names only, or if the person is not comfortable with that, you can use a pseudonym. Make sure that we're always honoring that dignity, that you're not exploiting vulnerability just to get those donations. Making sure that it's true, not creating a character or embellishing, but really talking about true life stories that are happening. And I used to always say, before I started doing the work of DEI, I used to always say, I want to make sure that everyone has a voice. Well, I realize that's wrong because everyone has a voice. What everyone doesn't have is the platform to share their voice, for their voice to be heard. And so, when possible, how can you be empowering or providing a platform for people to be sharing their own stories? So, when you are capturing those stories, if possible, try to capture some quotes verbatim. Pay attention to the energy that people are giving off. And again, we talked about some of this, but how can you build this into your operations? Is it adding questions to your surveys? Is it making it a part of your staff meetings? And once you're starting collecting, create a story bank, because there may be a different story for a different occasion throughout the year. And then, capturing those stories throughout the year. So I do see someone ask, these slides will be included with the recording. So you will definitely have access to all of this. And I apologize, I should have said that in the beginning. So I apologize if you have been furiously scribbling everything that's on these slides. So here is the meat. Here is what we're going to really be talking about for the rest of our time. And that is the story capture and telling framework. So what you want to do is you want to think about the before, and we're going to go through each of these separately, the turning point, the after, the feeling, and then the connection. So let's first start with the before. This is the challenge or the barrier that your person or your client, because we know we're not all serving people, was facing. What was at risk? What was the emotional state? Were there perhaps any previous attempts to solve the problem that didn't work? And what's the gap between where they were and where they wanted to be? So I'm going to use for this storytelling framework the story of Jamal. Jamal has been applying to jobs for 8 months after his release from prison. He'd walk to the library every day to use the computers, applying to 15 to 20 positions a week. Most applications went into a black hole and he never heard back. The few interviews he did get ended the moment he disclosed his record. His reentry housing was temporary. He only had 60 days to find stable income or he'd be back on the streets. The rejections were crushing his hope. So we've talked about with Jamal, what's that challenge? He's having a hard time finding work because of his record, that emotional state. His hopes are crushed. What's at risk? Well, his housing, he only has 60 days to find stable income. And if you know anything about previous offenders, we know that recidivism, relies heavily on people being able to have a job and having somewhere to live, right? So all of that is captured in the before. So yeah, I think about the story with Polly Pocket, right? What was her before? Tammy's story, what was her before? That she was just used to breed, that she was in a cage, that she was fearful. So this is your first part. What's the before? Then you want to talk about the turning point. So this is the specific program, service, or intervention that made a difference. Or perhaps it's a moment of connection, breakthrough, or shift. So I think about Gail. The moment of breakthrough was when the volunteer went out into the public instead of doing the service internally. Who showed up? What made this interaction different? And what was the specific action that the organization took? So let's continue our story with Jamal. At our job readiness program, Jamal met Coach Williams, a former HR director who understood how to talk to employers about second chances. Coach Williams didn't just update Jamal's resume, he practiced interview responses with him, focused on how to talk about his past with honesty and confidence. Then Coach Williams did something Jamal didn't expect. He personally called 3 employers in his network who were committed to fair chance hiring. He vouched for Jamal. And within 2 weeks, Jamal had an interview at a local manufacturing company. So we've captured that specific service. We've captured that human connection because now we've brought Coach Williams into the equation, into the story. We've talked about that approach that he practiced interview responses with him and he called people in his network. And now that aha moment or that turning point is he has an interview at a local manufacturing company. So we've talked about what moment or interaction changed things. After you do that, now it's the after. And this is what's different now, what's possible now. So, what are the tangible changes? What new possibilities didn't exist that before? How was confidence or skills or capacity grown? What were some ripple effects? And what was the forward momentum? So Jamal not only got the job, but 4 months into his role, he was promoted to team lead. He's now training 2 new hires, including 2 other men with criminal records. He moved into his own apartment, the first time he's had his own place in 6 years. Last month, he came back to volunteer with our program, helping other job seekers practice their interviews. Jamal says, Coach Williams believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. And now I get to be that person for someone else. So what we've done is we've added a specific outcome with time frame that 4 months into the role, he got team lead. We've added those new skills, opportunities, and resources. He's not only got the job, but now he's training other people. Now he has his own apartment, his own place in 6 years. That's that self-determination, that agency that he's been given through this program. And that give it back or pay it forward moment. So I do want to make sure that we talk about with dignity when we're talking in the after. The after should center on the person or the animal or the client's agency and strengths and not position your organization as the hero. So when we talked about Maria before, it's easy to say, well, we rescued Maria from XYZ. No, we want to say with support from our program, Maria XYZ. It could be we fixed Carlos's problems too. Carlos now has the tools too. So when it comes to dignity, you really want to be focused on how Has this person been empowered? What is their agency? And what are their strengths? The next step is the feeling. What's this person's emotional journey? And what is the emotion that you want the donors to experience? This is where you can talk about any vulnerability or strength, but what made this person feel seen, valued, or dignified? So when asked how it felt to receive that first paycheck, Jamal paused. It wasn't just about the money, he said. It was about someone seeing past my record and believing I had something to offer. Coach Williams didn't see a statistic, he saw me. So that's emotion. That's dignity. That's hope. So the emotional arc that you want to create for donors is this could be me. This could be my neighbor, my community. Then what's that connection? This organization shows up in meaningful ways. Hope, change is possible. Real impact is happening because we see with Jamal, there was real impact. And then agency for the donor is I can be a part of this story. My gift matters here. And then the final piece is the connection. So, how does this story demonstrate your mission in action? For this story with Jamal, it could say and I don't have an organization name, but at our organization, we don't just provide job training, we rebuild trust. We believe that people aren't defined by their worst mistakes and that anyone has inherent worth and potential. Jamal's journey from 60 days away from homelessness to mentoring others demonstrates exactly what's possible when we invest in people, not just programs. This is the work your support makes possible. That talked about why the organization exists. You talk about the values there of rebuilding trust, that people aren't defined by their worst mistakes, that everyone has inherent worth and potential. Could this same story happen anywhere else, or is there something distinct about us? And how does this individual story connect to our broader community impact? Right? This is what happens when we invest in people, not programs. So if we look at Jamal's story together, and oh, I think I added something here. We help you get a job. Uh, and so you all will get these slides, and so you'll kind of see how the whole story was put together. But if we compare this story to, hey, in 2025, we helped 58 prior offenders get jobs. How does that compare to an individual story like this? So I'm going to pause for a moment and I would like you all to tell me in the chat, as I was going through the steps, could you see yourself working through those steps with the story that you all selected earlier? Let me know in the chat. Could you see yourself going through this framework? Is this something you could see yourself using? Awesome. Yay. I love that. Yeah, that's what I said. Andrea mentioned, I guarantee that you all have so many stories already. So I love that you're recognizing that. Thank you. Yeah, I love a good framework. Tell me A, B, C, D, E, and I'm there. I love that. Awesome. I'm glad that it's resonating for you all and that you all can see this working in real time. So let's just talk about some common mistakes to avoid. There's no such thing as a perfect story. We all know that real stories are messy and ongoing. So if there's something that you see as a story, you can start capturing it, even if it isn't quote unquote done. Mistake number two, only capturing success stories or something that seems like a success, because progress is a story, small victories is a story, ongoing support is a story, and those can be powerful as well. Capturing stories and letting them sit. Find a way to use them, whether it's a year-end report, whether it's for a specific donor event like Midlands Gives, whether it's a weekly newsletter, find a way to use the stories. Don't make assumptions. Don't fill in those gaps. You want to be sure that you're asking pointed questions of people involved in the story so that you know what those gaps are. And we talked about this, the savior complex framing. We want to make sure that everyone in the story has dignity. Focusing on only on problems and not on strengths. We don't have to, a story does not require that someone is 100% a deficit in order for it to work. At all times, make sure that you're giving people privacy and dignity. And, oops, I'm sorry, went ahead too far. I hope that this is not too taboo to say, but I'm sure we've all seen this, right? We don't want to create what I call poverty porn. We don't want to exploit that vulnerability. And also, don't forget that call to action. It's really important that this is what your dollar does. This is what your contribution does. This is why we need you to volunteer. Make sure that you're being consistent. We talked about this a little earlier with the values. You want to make sure that what do you want your donors to understand about your impact? What shows up in every story? What are your values? Now, of course, from a branding perspective, you want to make sure that there's consistency in the way your photos are styled, the colors that you use, the fonts that you use. If you don't have, if your organization doesn't have a communications team or a marketing team, you can use something like Canva, which is free, and they have branding kits available there where you can select, these are the colors I want to use, these are the fonts, and every time you create something, you can use that branding. So no matter the size of your organization, there are tools out there so that you can have that consistency from that perspective. And then what's your tone? I say pick one and stick to it. Is it a tone, is it urgency? Is your organization something like, we need to have this now because these people that we are serving or this population we're serving needs you now? Is it hope? Is it we empower people? Make sure that's consistent. And again, your call to action, it should be the same. Same wording, same link, same urgency. Here's a test when it comes to consistency. If someone saw three different stories from your organization without seeing your logo, would they know it's the same organization? And you can test that out. You can look at it for yourself. If the answer is no, then you want to make sure that you do some work so that that answer is yes. The great thing about stories, the thing that I love about stories is that you can use them across different platforms. So on social media, you can really be focusing on those images. You can open perhaps with a hook and have some short paragraphs to accompany that image and end those paragraphs with a call to action. When you're doing email, you can make that subject line personalized. I recommend 200 to 300 words. I mean, I'll tell you, with short form video, our attention span has decreased significantly. So we want to make sure that we're grabbing people as soon as possible. If there is urgency, you can add a PS. You make sure you want to add that clear donate button. If you're using video, one of my favorites is show, don't tell. Have some authentic footage, caption, everything, again, for accessibility purposes. And again, we're asking people donate today. And if you're using this story on your website, you can do a feature story with a photo. You can include some supporting stories. Again, make sure you have that clear, prominent donate button. And if it's something that you can do, have a real-time counter. I think for something like Midlands Gives, that could be a great thing to add, is that donation counter. But again, we could use the story of Jamal across all four of these platforms in different ways. So I want to practice. I would like someone who hasn't gone yet to take that story idea you wrote earlier and walk us through this framework and let us give you some feedback. So you can either use the raise hand function or you can let me know in the chat that you'd like to go. We don't, okay, Andrea, thank you. You can go ahead and unmute.
I was hoping someone else would raise their hand.
Oh, it's you, my friend.
Okay, I'm gonna do this off the top of my head because another story came to my mind. I actually work with two nonprofits, but I wanted to test this out. So I work with a nonprofit called the International Mind League, and we work with indigenous peoples from Guatemala. And we had a story of, so we have a interpreter training program for indigenous interpreters who interpret for folks in courts or in hospitals, at schools. And we had a story of a person, we'll call them Jimena. Jimena came as an unaccompanied minor when she was young, and she spoke her Mayan language, but she was always ashamed of speaking her language because there was always shame associated with that. And so she found the Mayan League, and she was like, I know my language, I want to help people, I just don't know how to connect the skills, and I'm kind of scared, I don't know how to do invoices and all that stuff. So the turning point was she attended the training. We flew her out in person, paid for lodging and everything, and we just wanted her to come. And she was the most active person in the training, and we saw her confidence kind of grow overnight. The after of what's possible is that now she is not a youth, she's a young lady now, but she's also talking to other young women about, hey, you can do this, like you can be a leader. I didn't think I could be a leader, and I am a leader, and we can help our community together. And the feeling she had was pride, but also that she was kind of taking her power back. That was something that was taken from her. And also the pride that she felt, and she was like, I'm proud to be indigenous, I'm proud of my language, and I get to help my community. And now the connection is that, I think all of us struggle with belonging, especially those of us who are not on our ancestral lands, whether you're indigenous or not. I think everybody at some capacity can understand this feeling of belonging and why it's important. And I think that her story, even though it's centered in something very specific, that it shows that now the next generation, the younger generation, because languages are getting lost as the youth come and they, assimilation, they're actually like wanting to speak their languages, and they're wanting to continue the work that Jimena's doing. So that's something that especially for women is really important for us. And that's why I'm like, my mind is like exploding with all these stories, because there's so many that we can do that still centers their dignity without being like, if it wasn't for us, she couldn't have done it. She already had the potential. She had something that we can't teach her. All we did was just meet her where she was and then helped her see herself in a different way. And that's something that stuck with me. So I
Andrea,
hope
that's
that, yeah.
beautiful. And
Thank
I
you.
think that could even be the tagline. She already had this. We just had to, we helped her see it for herself or something. I can't remember how you said it. It
Yeah.
was so beautiful how you said
Thank
it,
you.
but that was amazing. I don't know why I didn't want to go, but thank you for volunteering. I'm going
Thank
to
you.
ask everyone, are the participants, let's give her some feedback in the chat. Is there anything that you would want to hear more of or less of, or any other way that she can, because this is a story I think that you could go and you could use today. So thank you, Andrea. Marcella, let's see, are you able to unmute?
She is now.
Still
Oh,
not able to, am I able to, can you hear
oh
me?
yes, we hear you now.
Wonderful. Hello, everyone. My name is Chaplain Marcella Wilson, and I was given a nonprofit about 7 years ago. Didn't know what to do with it because I am a chaplain. So I actually used some of my skills as a mentor to mentor at-risk kids in the community. But then I changed the mission statement and I allowed it to be international. So as a result of that, that allowed me to think about people who are in other countries who are also here but have family members in the villages in Africa. So I was able to raise enough money to do two water wells in Uganda. So I traveled all the way to Uganda. And as a result of that, I showed pictures of the village before I went to Uganda. And then when I went to Uganda, I did videos of me actually having a drill company come in through the benefits of the donors and drill in this specific village where they were going to the swamp to get water 10 miles away. So, as a result of them not having the water before I got there, there was a lot of disease and death. And when the water came, the illnesses went down substantially, and they were able to do farming so they could be self-sustainable in that village. So as a result of the before pictures and the during videos and the after pictures, my donors were able to see the progress of what they were donating their money towards. And so it snowballed even further into helping the widow women in the village. And so we also had donors that were interested in asking how could we help more with these individuals. So they were able to sponsor some of the widows and sponsor some of the orphan children. So right now we have about 40 orphan children that we sponsor every month. And we, as a result of what you're talking about, which is this is a wonderful platform, I actually show the child, and the donors are able to see the child in the before presence, and now they see the child as they are going to school in a uniform, eating well, and thriving. So I thank you for the platform, and like I said, some of the things that you're talking about is very successful within my nonprofit.
I love that. Thank you so much for that story. I'm going to ask the same of our participants. Please, in the chat, give her some feedback. Let her know, is there anything you want to hear more of or a different connection? But thank you. That's amazing. And I love how you talk about that ripple effect, that it was originally about water, but
Yeah,
now it's supporting widows and orphans. So thank you so much for sharing that.
you're welcome. Thank you.
So we've talked about this ethical storytelling checklist quite a bit. I want to make sure we get to some questions. So and again, you all will get all of these slides, but here's your assignment. See, if you've been in a presentation with me, you know I always like to give assignments and things for you to go do. So this week, I think I would like you to identify 3 to 5 stories, do that story mining. And you might have already done it today, so you might check that off. Then I want you to start capturing those details. Just focus on 2 to 3 top stories. Make sure you're getting permission. Use that I'm sorry, it's a 5 act framework. That's a typo. I'll correct that before I send out the slides. But use that framework that we talked about and then adapt stories for each platform. Schedule your stories throughout the 24-hour period. Don't post all at once, but make sure that you are constantly in front of people's minds throughout the day. Remember that authenticity beats perfection. One great story beats 10 mediocre ones, and your story should make donors feel like heroes. What you can also do is follow up after Midlands Gives with this is your impact. You could do a your impact story. Because of your impact, we are now able to XYZ. So today we learned why storytelling is essential. We discussed how to identify and capture those stories. We learned and practiced with this authentic storytelling framework. And we talked about how to develop a consistent strategy across multiple platforms. So we have about 9 minutes left, and I would love to open up the floor for any questions. You can put them in the chat or you can use the raise hand function and I'll call on you. While people are thinking about their questions or putting them in the chat, I would also love, tell me one word or phrase of how you're feeling while leaving this conversation. You can put that in the chat. One word or phrase, how are you feeling? Hopeful, increased confidence. Thank you. Encouraged. Aha. I love it. I love an aha moment. Thankful, inspired, ready, motivated, empowered, excited. Ah, okay. Our nonprofit has not pursued a matching donor in the past. I would love some guidance on how to use stories and best practices for reaching out to matching donors. Great, great question. Does anyone have any thoughts around that? Matching donor? As people are thinking about that, one of the things I think of is, let's say we're talking about Jamal and we could, we still use the same story, but we add something of your matching gift would help us impact X more people or have this much more of an impact. I think you use the same story, you just create a message of letting them know what that match will help do. But I'd love to hear from some other nonprofit experts in the room of how they've successfully got matching donors. Has anyone been successful with getting matching donors? Okay. Thank you, Beth. Matching gifts are fabulous on giving days. Your board members can be a great first step resource for this. I agree. I'm on a board and we're going to do a matching gift. Yep, I love that. Okay, Barbara's saying the same thing. So challenge your board members. Perhaps that is your first step for this first time of doing it, is asking your board members. Yep. Thank you all for that. The other question I received in the chat is, we have some HIPAA challenges. Do you think it's acceptable for us to use composite stories, ethical blending narratives combined with staff narratives? Of course, absolutely. Would not want you to provide any information that could get you in trouble. So absolutely. Any other questions or thoughts? All right. Well, I thank you everyone for your time today. Thank you for your participation, for participating in those activities that I gave you. I would love to hear some stories of how, some impact stories of how this helped you or how this worked for you this year. So please take note of my contact information. Send me an email. I'd love to hear about how this worked for you all. So thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day and good luck to everyone during Midlands Gives.
Thank you so much, Beth. I really appreciate the presentation today. Um, Thank you again, so many of you, for participating and sharing out. Um, Wanted to just remind you all, we do have a few trainings upcoming. And so please refer to our Midlands Gives training page to register for those if you haven't yet. And then at the end of today's session, there's a very brief 3-question survey. Your feedback's important to us to make sure that we are in alignment with the trainings that you want and need. Please, if you have any questions, again, about Midlands Gives, um, you know that we do have the Midlands Gives at yourfoundation.org. And Chantrell, is there anything else you wanted to conclude with before we leave today?
No, just make sure you guys register by March 1st. I did want to let you guys know, if you haven't registered yet, we are raffling, doing a random draw for $250 for anybody who registered by February 24th. So if you already registered at the beginning of the month, you will be included in that drawing as well. And that's pretty much it for me.
Thank you so much, Chantrell. And again, thank you all so much. I can't wait to hear the stories that are going to come up and that you're going to share. And again, thank you all so much for what you do for the community. We really appreciate you. Have a great rest of your week.